My next guest joining me tonight here on Punky's MixTape is hailing out of Surrey, British Columbia. Like everybody, to welcome to the show, Sean, John, and Jono of the bands Mediaslaves. How we doing?
Great.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Can't complain.
Yeah.
It's a nice cloudy day out here-ish, but it's still kind of warm, so it's kind of...
Yeah, I don't have chills, so.
It's par for the course on the Pacific Northwest, you know?
Definitely.
Although it's pretty comparable here on the East Coast, too. Like, it's overcast. It's, like, almost 70 degrees. Like, I'll take it.
I like this. It's mild, you know? It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's kind of perfect.
Yeah,
So.
I just went for a walk not that long ago, and it was really nice outside, you know? I mean, it's like sweater weather, but yeah.
So I call it, it's typo negative season.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a good time of year. It's my favorite time of year. So, let's go down the line. Whoever wants to start first and introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the band.
Who wants to start, boys?
I mean, Johnny's our fearless leader. I feel like he should.
Yeah, I feel like you should start.
All right. Hello, everybody listening. I am Johnny. I sing and play guitar in the band.
Cool story, bro.
Are we supposed to do more? Should I? I don't know how long the intro should
Make
be.
it lively, go.
As long as you like. As long as we can get into some, you know, like the entire history. We can go back to like the formative years, you know.
Well, back when I was 16 years old, I no. I sing and play guitar. The band met when we all played a punk show in a cafe.
Sip chai.
Sip Chai Cafe, shout out.
I play in another band, and then that's how our bands met, actually.
I was
Sean was
also
also-
in another band.
All three of us were in separate bands playing the same show.
Yeah.
We have all come together now. But maybe we could talk a bit more about that later.
Oh,
That's-
absolutely,
somebody else.
absolutely.
All right, I guess I'll go next. I'm Sean. I play bass. Like Johnny said, we all met at a cafe show we played like about a year ago, almost.
Over a year ago.
A little over a year. It was during the summer last year. And then we were playing I got on the bill with the band I was playing with got on a bill with Mediaslaves again at a show at a punk house in Vancouver. And it happened to be the last show that they played with their bassist they had at the time. And it wasn't long after that show that Johnny asked me if I would like to join, and I played a Battle of the Bands with them right after that, almost exactly a year ago. And yeah, Mediaslaves has been kind of my jam since.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Jono, go for it.
All right. Jono time. I'm Jono. I play drums in Mediaslaves, and yeah, this is actually the first band I played drums in. I'm mainly a guitar player, but yeah, that's how we all met. We met at a cafe show, but I was playing with my other band, Stutter, and then I think we met up at the Cancer Bat show, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we met up at the Cancer Bat show.
The day before that Battle of the Bands, I played with Mediaslaves.
Yeah.
We knew the drummer for Mediaslaves, he was moving away. So we need a new drummer. We ran into Jono at the show. I was kind of shooting the shit with him outside the Rickshaw Theater in East Hastings there. And you were like, oh, I'd love to play drums in a band. And yeah, that's how it happened.
I always wanted to play drums in like a heavier band, and like they're still kind of new, or they're my, I guess, newest instrument. So I was like, all right, well, I'm up for the challenge, and yeah, the rest is history.
I remember when Sean told me that he was talking to Jono at the Cancer Bat show. I also went to the Cancer Bat show a little bit late after I saw Ghost, and I bumped into Sean in the pit, and then Sean's like, I was talking to Jono, and he wants to play drums, and I'm like, what? And I had no idea that Jono even played drums, but after I saw him perform with Stutter and saw what a wild, crazy guy this guy can be, even though he's nice and calm and very chill right now, I'm like, oh, dude, Jono's got the right vibe. So then, yeah, and now Now we're the boys up in here.
Oh, I didn't shout out my band that I was playing with at the time. Generation Y, shout out to them because they're back in it now doing stuff again. So, looking forward to seeing what they come out with. But anyways, back to what we were talking about.
Back to this regularly scheduled interview.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome that you all kind of came together from your different bands, got to know each other, and you're like, fuck it, let's all do it. Honestly, I don't really know how any other way that happens, like you start playing bands, but then you meet so many other bands over the years, and you end up getting really close, and and end up having brother and sister bands, and then you're doing shit outside in your everyday life. Next thing you know, you're best friends, and it's 10 years later. So that's pretty much the way that it goes. That's pretty cool. So you guys have only been together for a year now. That's crazy.
Yeah, the current lineup is only a year old, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And you guys have actually just dropped a music video that we're going to be able to check out tonight, which I'm very excited about. Want to tell us a little bit about the filming and putting that together? Because I've been following the Instagram story on it, and it's looked fucking wild since the first post on it.
So the music video is kind of a funny story. We kind of went into it with no plan, no real set vision. We're kind of just like, hey, let's shoot a music video. Let's get a bunch of costumes, and we shot it all ourselves. We took turns being like the camera person, and all had our own like separate scenes and together scenes. And I guess a tripod was technically our fourth member. And then Sean did double duty as himself, as well as this monster skull man kind of character with a who chases us around. And it was really fun. That was a really good time. It was really fun to cut together because, it's just a really good memory of having a really fun day. So, yeah, anybody else have any thoughts about that?
There's we snuck in a little parody of a TV show, but I won't say what it is. You'll
know when you see it.
Yeah, you'll know it when you see it.
Oh, definitely excited to be able to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to be awesome. I mean, if there can take any bit of positivity out of this year, any and all, at least be able to get together with the people that you love and just do something and have fun, and then really be proud of the end product. So, any bit of positivity is good, because this year has just been total shit.
Yeah, that's really been getting me through this year, is having stuff like this. So
just kind of nice, intimate kind of hangouts. I said to myself, I feel like maybe in a year or so, I'll look back fondly on these memories as crazy as this year's been. I feel like it's kind of brought, like you said, the people we love kind of closer together, which is really nice.
Well, that's good to see, especially we've seen so much just separation of people, but it's good to hear these little stories of triumphs of just people coming together, taking care of each other, and just doing what they love. That's the most important thing at the end of the day, is having that communal sense around you. So it's what's gotten me through, everything that's happening here in the States, which is night and day, I imagine, from what's happening in Canada right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit different up here. Watching you guys is a little bit crazy. But yeah.
What's your general impression? I mean, honestly, be honest.
I don't know. It's kind of batshit insane, really. I mean, it's not like it's perfect up here, too. It's, we got our own problems. We've had plenty of people being irresponsible and whatnot, and you just gotta work it out.
Well, absolutely. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the times in general have kind of shown the extremes of where, people in general can go. Now there's all these Instagram channels that are like, Karen's gone wild and Kevin's gone wild. And it's just people just doing wild, angry, ridiculous things, very hateful things, which is definitely sucky to see. And it kind of shows things, but on the other hand, you're seeing a lot of artists, show innovation in a lot of ways. And, I think being in this time for us, having a little bit more time on our hands, gave us that opportunity to, our first music video was made completely out of Instagram filters almost. And that was just a fun little idea because our original music video shoot had been pretty much canceled. We didn't really lock everything in place yet, but it was in motion, and then it all kind of got shut down. But we still wanted to release our music, so it's it's an interesting balance, and you see very different extremes of how this is all playing out.
Well, punk is kind of like perfectly suited to like a pandemic because I mean, what better ethos than DIY, which is like our genre's thing, right? So it's like, oh, we can't get a bunch of people together and shoot a music video. Well, like, fuck it, we'll grab like a camcorder and a tripod and a bunch of Halloween costumes that we don't use anymore and make our own video. And none of our fans give a shit if it looks professional or anything because, we're a bunch of fucking crusty punks and everything. So,
Well, and that's what people I think like about punk, because it's kind of like relatable. It's like, I like the fact that like when people are watching the music videos, they're like, I like the fact that I could just get all my friends and like just make a fun video or make a fun piece of art. And like, yeah, people like the relatability.
Well, and that, and like it's always with punk and anything with the DIY spirit, or actually a term that I've recently learned, DIT, do it together. We don't really do it ourselves, do we? We do have our own little villages that we, our little tribes that we put together. And it's kind of a DIT mentality, and it's kind of blown my mind, and I'm fastly adopting it because it's not an individual do it yourself. Like, yeah, we all have that entrepreneurial, ambitious spirit to get shit done, and necessity is the mother of invention. That's for damn sure. But it shows this, like, if you have the ambition to do it, there are so many ways to do it. And if it's not perfect, well, those little tiny imperfections are what give it character, because you can't, the time and place, the happenstance that's created, and the memories, and when you're having so much fun, it doesn't matter if it's perfect. It's the end result, and you had a good time, and the music's good, and everybody, they're enjoying it all together. So I think the parts where some might view as mistakes are actually some of the best parts about it.
Yeah, I like DIT. I think that's kind of perfect because we're not doing it ourselves. We get broadcast by people like you who, really help us out and help us continue to do what we're doing and, take it to the next step and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely a team effort.
Now that term was just showed to me by John Robb of the Membranes and Louder Than War magazine. We actually had an interview with him last week. But we were talking about that DIY spirit, and we had this amazing conversation on DIT, and it completely, I'm like, this is exactly the mentality I have, but it's all just about your perception on a situation. So it's like, because we never really do it alone, do we? Even if we're sneaking into places and using photocopiers and things like that we're not supposed to be, and just trying to get free flyers when we can and stuff like that. We've all been there. We've all just had to figure out a way to get shit done. And I think that's honestly one of my favorite parts about it, because you get like little imperfections in recording quality and audio. And I think that's what makes punk, because otherwise, if it was everything was perfect, I don't think it would have the same quality, Yeah.
Another really interesting thing that I think has come out of this is how, before like local bands to like superstar bands, there was such like a big gap. But, since, superstar bands are kind of at our same level of they're doing the live streams at home and in their basements and in their home studios and stuff. And it's kind of, there's this whole kind of like fall of celebrityism kind of going down right now with like all these conspiracies about Hollywood being revealed and whatnot. And I feel like, it's given a bit more of an application to, small radio, small independent magazines, small independent bands to kind of utilize the power of the internet to really bring up their own audiences and kind of think outside the box and work together, as you say, DIT, to bring the whole independent scene in an uprise.
They've got to kind of like walk among us now,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's true, like that celebrity status, like that the separation, it's kind of broken. The barrier's broken. We're all, and if anything can show that we're all one and the same, and we're in this together, and we're all should be taking care of each other and have a sense of responsibility for our community around us. It's a leveling field. Like this, what we're dealing with, it affects every single person. And nevertheless, the things that are happening socially, just focusing on the pandemic alone, it's a huge leveler, because for some massive touring bands, it's absolutely crippled them. Just like the same with the local band that was planning their first, like say even East Coast, or just a 2-week or a single weekend tour. Their whatever plans that they had, everything just got. So people had to get creative, and so that's where the tech punks that understand these little things got together and were able to help others and be able to get it out there and just start producing their own shit. And this, like they were with the basement shows years, still, but I'd say a year ago, but it's the same idea of like, we have this message, we have, this amazing thing that we're trying to do, and we want to share it. How can we do that? And it's been awesome that there's been some good streaming options. I know that the big old Facebook is definitely fucking punching down hard on music streams and stuff like that, even when it's original content, which is fucking bullshit. Like, oh, you own this music, but yet you can't play it out. So it's good that my Twitch overlords are super good, and we're able to incorporate an awesome show of independent music from all around the world, and that's. But I think there's a bigger resurgence, because especially where you look at like the Hollywood formula for movies, bringing that up, and then like all these little streaming services, which are big streaming services now, they're producing their own content, they're making their own movies, and they're doing it outside of like the Hollywood formula. So it's changing, as South Park loves to joke that any jackass with a script can get hired at Netflix, but like they're giving great opportunities to independent producers out there, and same with some other streaming services. And then there's even smaller ones like that from there that are giving like horror directors new options and stuff through like Trauma TV and the Horror Vault. Like it's giving now there's so much content more than ever, but I think people are starting to realize, like you said, like all the independent options that are out there. In a crazy long about manner, I got there.
Yeah, I mean, we got really high hopes for when everything starts to go kind of back to normal, because there was already, it felt like something happening in the local music scene, and really with like the genre as a whole. Like it felt like we were getting a lot more attention. There was kind of like this electricity in the air when you go to like local shows and whatnot. And it kind of feels like the pandemic has only brought like more attention to this kind of music. I feel like a lot of people have been kind of curious about, stuff outside of, the shiny, glossy sort of mainstream stuff. No disrespect to that. You like what you like, but it's nice to see people being curious about like other forms of music. So we're pretty hopeful about getting back out there and playing shows and everything, and going to shows and hopefully touring, and what kind of crowds that's going to bring, because I feel like it's going to be pretty great. So
yeah, that was definitely one thing that I noticed, like especially when before the pandemic happened. Yeah, definitely the crowds and like kind of the punk community expanding a little bit, because I know even at my other band shows, like we'd have people coming out, we'd bring some of our friends out that like had never even heard of like DIY punk, and they came and they had a great time. Like, and these are people that would only go to like nightclubs and stuff like that. But the thing is, I think the reason for that was because like they had no way of finding out about these shows. And then I just kind of said, hey, well, why don't you come out? And then, yeah. So it's crazy how it's expanding.
We're really primed for it right now too, because it feels like we're not like inundated with like gatekeepers right now. Like people, there's not a lot of patience for people who want to try and bring like fucking negative vibes into the scene and everything. Generally, people in the community right now are really accepting, and even if they're not into your sound particularly, they just like respect you for being out there doing something, which is really nice. So I think that's going to continue, and it's going to continue to, like, you know, probably bring new people in, and that'll be good for everyone, I think.
And what I think is so interesting, kind of going back on the note of people's curiosity, is, you know, I've been noticing a lot of like really big pop stars and stuff kind of drawing some attention to the punk scene as well. Like if you look at Post Malone doing the Nirvana show, and we look at
I got Machine Gun Kelly doing pop punk.
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly's got a whole pop punk album out right now.
I've seen like a million posts about his album, and I haven't had time to check it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's something I would bump on the regular, but hey, man, respect to him. Like, I appreciate it for sure.
Me too.
Here you go.
And yeah, so there's definitely some, you know, there's a young artist named Youngblood who did a collaboration with Bring Me the Horizon, which is kind of a very interesting mix of people. So I think, yeah, it's been an interesting time for punk and just like rock music in general, guitar music. Apparently guitar sales are up like a crazy amount this year compared to before. So
yeah, I heard that too.
Who knows what that
means.
means.
Do something alone in your room all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Well, I think you're definitely right, and I think there's always a resurgence in punk, especially when there's so much social and civil unrest happening in the world, and people are trying to find a way, especially like you said, the ones that weren't like privy to it before, like didn't have a way to get to the show, they didn't know anybody, they didn't have an in. You know, they're like trying to find ways to work out the stress and anxiety and express the ways that they want to express themselves. And sometimes the more, what's the polite way to say this? The more stereotypical like radio formula, it doesn't hit that point, you know, and especially when you go to a DIY show and you lose yourself on the floor, you know, in the pit with a bunch of people, and you're picking each other up, and there's beer going everywhere, and the lights are going everywhere, and the music is just a sonic assault on your entire body, and it's everything, you know, like it's more than just an experience to those. It's an ethos. It's a way of life, you know. It's a way of self-expression, and I think people are trying to find that now more than ever, especially with all this self-isolation, everything, the quarantine everybody's been going through. There's been tons of soul searching. So I imagine that when things do open up, I'm kind of imagining like a New York in the 1980s, where you could like go to one club and like see like this type of band, and people are leaving from, you know, from like the indie band going over to the punk to an electronic, and like all groups are uniting because there's music to be had, and there's, you know, socialization and this community through music. And I'm just imagining a big positive resurgence. And I've been saying it, you know, definitely age myself here, but like 25 years ago, you know, going to shows, it didn't fucking matter who was playing. There was a show, it was Friday night, get in a car, let's go.
Yeah. Well, that's the dream right there, what you just described. So hopefully we see more of that once all this starts to blow over a little bit.
I think the inclusivity, like, of everyone just coming together, I think it's going to be more than what we saw before. And like I said, there's good people that like were curious. They want to dip their toe in the water, and, you know, they finally found like that breakaway band, that band to just open up things for them. And holy shit, this band's, I'm in Vancouver. That's not too far away from me. I could go to that. Or, oh, this show is in Boston. Whatever it is that we're bringing attention to here, you know, hopefully it's helping inspire people, you know, to go on and just connect with the world around them and do great stuff, you know, and just check out new music and new experiences. And I think that's what, to me, is like, it's with punk, it's so soul refreshing, is because there's so much variety within a genre, because it says it's more of a mindset and an ethos, where a lot of people, it's not just shredding, wailing guitars, it could vary to so many different degrees.
Yeah, that reminds me of a time. I also wrote for a magazine called Beatroot, and I was interviewing CJ Ramone from the Ramones. He played with them between 1989 and 1996. And I had asked him, I said, you know, CJ, what is the definition of punk rock to you? And he says, you know, it's not wearing a jacket full of patches. It's not doing your hair a certain way. It's all about doing things your own way and not really giving a fuck about what anybody else says. Just do it your way. Your way's the right way, that kind of a thing. And I'm like, wow, that really like just opened my mind to what punk is. You know, it's not just a sound, it's a whole idea, and it's a whole just, you know, again, fitting into the whole DIY, DIT mentality of just do it your way, do what you got to do, you know, type of thing.
And I think that's what drew me onto punk rock, especially because I grew up playing music, but I was always like, and I think you guys can all relate to this too, you know, when you get into music, there's always those musicians that are just like, nah, you got to do it this way. And it can almost turn people off doing music completely, which is awful. And, but then people find punk rock and it's like, oh no, I can play my guitar sloppy as long as like, it's all about like the song itself. It's like, I'm putting my heart into this song. So that's all that matters.
Yeah.
It also makes things more fun too, because like if you go on stage and you fuck up, which we've done plenty of times, you know, it's okay. So we just laugh it off. We just continue what we're doing. If you know, it doesn't matter. We can go up there and just scream into a microphone and eat a pie. I had a friend. He was in a band called The Exclaimers, and they played at this venue called Stardust, which was a roller rink way back in the day. And they literally went on stage with their instruments. And they just ate a pie, and that was their whole set. And they're like, "Okay, we're done. Bye." And I'm like, "That is so fucking sick."
You know, that's not the first time. Like I've seen a band back in Boston and Alston and Brighton years ago, Composted, and it was like a deathcore death metal hype man. He was a big guy, and he came out wearing like a hefty bag over his clothes, and like the band one was dressed up as Abe Lincoln, one was dressed as George Washington. And I'll never forget this. It was the day that Heath Ledger died, and the guy came out in Joker makeup, and it was before like the Dark Knight had really come out and taken off, and it's just like too fucking soon. And then all of a sudden, the big dude just starts eating hot dogs out of nowhere with like way too much mustard in a dive bar that already reeks of like 110 degrees and PBR and hot mustard smell. And then he just kept adding more food to the entire set. He ended up eating like a birthday cake. He had a couple cheeseburgers, but he would just like, as the hot dog and birthday cake would just fall all over it, thus making the hefty bag make a lot of sense.
That's pretty gnarly.
I'll never forget that. That was definitely one of the most unique experiences I've saw. Like, and I love Guar. I've seen them so many times. I don't know how many times I've had odorous jizz all over my face and blood. But the combination of birthday cake and just hot mustard together, I'll never forget that.
I feel like you're doing something right if people after your show are like, I'll never forget that. Even if it was just fucked up and weird and out there. If people are saying, I'll never forget that, you're doing something right.
That was like 17, maybe like 16 or 15 years ago. So that was a long time.
Yeah.
Now, besides things like eating a pie, what's the scene like up there? I'm always curious in different parts of the world that I haven't been to.
Oh, man.
In Vancouver, there's so many little, there's, different scenes within, so, oh, man. I mean, what was your experience, Johnny?
Well, I think there's just a lot of really good musicians out here, and a bunch of really good, cool bands that can be open-minded to you. And there are a lot of different scenes within the major scene for sure, but they do cross-pollinate. I think sometimes I haven't been this band's been playing shows for what our Sip Chai show was the second show I've played since coming back to music, and so I haven't really fully delved in, but you guys have been playing a little bit longer than I have. So what are your guys' thoughts?
There's a lot of really good bands that are coming out of Vancouver that but I definitely had to kind of I definitely had to find the scene, because for so long, even growing up, I didn't start going to punk shows. I'm 23. I didn't start going to punk shows till I was 19, because I just didn't know of any that were happening. And then my buddy Ralph, who plays in my other band, Stutter, he worked with a guy that played in, or there's still a band now, shout out to Brass. He worked with the lead singer, and the lead singer was like, hey, you should come up to a show. And then Ralph's like, okay. And my buddy Ralph calls me up, and we went to, I believe it was SBC, which is like another venue on East Hastings, which is like
R.I.P. SBC.
Yeah, R.I.P. SBC. And they have like a band playing at the end of it, and yeah, they were one of the first like local shows I went to, and that's what changed my whole world.
Speaking of punk rock things and SBC, so SBC is a venue that's also a skate ramp. So just imagine like sliding. I used to always slide down that skate ramp during shows.
Oh, that sounds.
Oh my god! I
Half
almost died in pits there many times.
Oh man, SBC, man.
It's definitely like where I'm in the middle of the woods. Like we don't have anything like that, so it's like people's basements or living rooms, or we drive like 2 hours south to go to Portland, hour and a half. But, you drive a distance to go, play into like a major city and stuff like that. Or we drive like another 2 hours to go up towards Bangor and that area to play up there. Because otherwise in like central Maine, there are no venues for punk, metal, and hardcore at all. And I think most of like the Legion halls and stuff like that, they stopped renting this because unfortunately like Maine had like a really big hardcore resurgence in like the last like 20 years, 10 years specifically, but it's kind of brought some of the wrong people to venues that just go and just like disrespect the building and the property and stuff like that, and then it ruins it for everybody. Like, it's great to go down and throw down in a pit and have a great time, but when you're smashing windows out in the bathroom and stuff like that, they're like, fucking A, come on. Like, you're ruining it for everybody. So there are no venues in this area at all right now as far as that, unless you want to travel to Portland or to Bangor, unfortunately. So that makes it hard. So I'm always curious. But people keep it going. They do their own thing, and I've seen a lot of friends create their own little private venues in their garage or basements over the years, and that works very well.
Yeah, it's easy to lose those venues when people come and do stupid shit like that, because it seems like the city's always looking for an excuse to shut down your spaces. Like, we just lost SBC, we just lost 333, which was like a little DIY venue. It was like a garage at like an auto repair shop. We lost Blue House, which was just a house where a bunch of punks lived. They just had shows in their living room and whatnot. So, it's important to, it's obviously important to just go to those venues and be respectful and kind of, keep track of people who aren't being respectful and get rid of them so they don't fucking ruin it for everybody.
Exactly. I mean, it's like this little golden opportunity. Like, we know that the shows can be aggressive, and we know that sometimes like misunderstandings happen, and sometimes fights happen. That shit, that's human nature, especially when you're exerting so many emotions in such a high energy situation. It's bound to happen. But when you are just going through and just trying to show how much you can big pissing contest, big dick swinging contest, just for the sake of acting like the toughest guy at the fucking party, well, you're the biggest piece of shit now.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's something that we've been dealing with for quite some time up this way. But we in Portland, we do have a ton of great venues that have been pushing through, like Geno's and Santiki and Flask Lounge. Like, those places have been supportive to all genres of music for years now, which is awesome. So one thing that I imagine that the people that are watching are probably picking this up, but you guys are definitely as described as a punk band. But how would you describe Mediaslaves?
Is thrash punk a thing? I feel like if it's not a thing, we should be thrash punk.
Like thrash, ramp up.
We always sound thrashy.
Yeah.
That's what people are always saying about us. We sound thrashy.
I usually say heavy punk, but thrash punk works as well.
Heavy punk's good. But like, I'd say we're like, well, we got fast songs. We're like, because when I think thrash, I think of like super speed. But like, I'd say, heavy punk, maybe a little thrash influence.
Yeah, we definitely have a couple songs that have a little bit of like a stonery vibe, ish for sure.
And I'm sure that's just incidental.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. How are things? I'm in Maine, so like we got our card here, and it's fucking plentiful. Didn't you guys just go like full recreational last year?
Yeah, we
pretty
did.
much.
Yeah.
We can order our weed from the government now and get it mailed to us.
We can
buddy-
grow. We can grow.
We
if you
can grow
plant
it, too.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to adopt Maine, like have right at it. Like I'm right there. I mean, we got delivery services now, but the government doesn't deliver me my weed. Is it good? Or is it like what you expect?
It's
Like,
overpriced. It's overpriced.
definitely overpriced.
I don't really. I haven't bought any government weed or anything, but according to like everybody I know, it's pretty overpriced actually.
my
But
buddy-
being able to grow your own plants is pretty sweet. So
Even my buddy who works for like government cannabis, he's like, yeah, it's overpriced.
yeah.
it's like when I was back in college and I would see the crew of 3 or more fedoras, and they're like, "Oh, how much?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's 40 a gram." They're like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, advertise the
Isn't there a scene like that in SLC Punk where he like rips off a bunch of dudes because they have no fucking idea how much it's supposed to cost? I feel like it's from SLC Punk or a movie like that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely where all of us have inspired those moments where you're just like, yeah, I really don't want to have this conversation, and I'd rather actually not be selling you weed right now because I'm like 64% that one of you might be a cop or a cop's son. So let's just do this as fast as possible. It's 40 a gram. You're not bitching? Cool. that'll be $120 an eighth, and I am leaving.
That reminds me of a time. This was actually the last time I was at the States. This was before weed was legalized over there. I went to Sub Pop Jubilee in Seattle, and I was hammered. I was just walking down, and I was just like, "Canadian looking for weed! Canadian looking for weed!" Just like yelling down the street. Then somebody sold me a joint for like $10, and I was like, "Okay, whatever. It's good for now."
Funny, I was down in Portland like a couple years ago, and I was just asking random people on the street if they knew where to get mushrooms, and everybody looked offended. I was like, "All right, come on, Portland.
Yeah.
You know your reputation. Come on."
You are in the wrong Portland. I refer to that Portland as Bizarro Portland, and then this is
Oregon?
really, come to our Portland. If you walk around the old port, you'll find mushrooms. Don't worry about it.
All right, I'm coming to your Portland next time for sure. I was disappointed. Portland, Oregon, step your game up.
Yeah.
Come on. You're representing your country.
It's supposed to be the mushroom capital of America. What the fuck is up with that?
I mean, I don't know if I go that far. I was just expecting to be able to get some drugs. I thought some hipstery kid would walk up like, "Oh, hey, man, you want some mushrooms?" But no, everybody just looked really
I only have
offended.
half a glass of tea left, but I'm willing to share it.
Oh, I've actually never had
Absolutely.
mushroom tea.
Yeah, I've never had mushroom tea either, actually.
Oh, the tea will get you. The
Oh,
tea will get you. Be careful of the tea. Anyways, so that's fine. We're an NC-17 plus show anyways. If your kids are watching this, you're either really good parents or really bad parents. You decide.
There you go.
A little column A, a little column B.
Yeah.
You gotta learn about it from somewhere, and it might as well be from Punky Bruiser and Mediaslaves, because you know what? You might be getting misinformation about psychedelic mushrooms. The more you know.
Same school.
hmm Also, eat them with Skittles. It'll kill the taste.
Oh, like those zombie ones that taste like shit?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they all taste like shit, but if you throw a couple Skittles in your mouth and kind of chew them all in one.
I was definitely one of those kids too. Like, and I fucked up my back teeth because of that. And it was definitely just because of candy. But, like, I would just totally, it's like all the Skittles and just get that big jawbreaker size and like the side of your cheek. Like, I would go to sleep and just wake up and finish eating it in the morning before school. Glad, but I didn't choke on Skittles in the middle of the night.
I remember one time I fell asleep with a piece of gum in my mouth, and it had like, because I like grind my teeth when I sleep, and when I woke up, it was like sand. It was just like fine, sticky sand in the back of my mouth, and it was so horrible. And my mouth was so minty, and oh god, I felt horrible.
You skipped Russian that day. You're fine.
That's my biggest fear,
Well-
like falling asleep with a piece of gum in my mouth and like choking it in my sleep.
Oh,
With Halloween the corner, actually, you know, me and my better half, her and I were just talking about this earlier driving around. And we were just talking like one of my biggest fears is falling under ice and getting TUI'd, getting trapped underneath ice. Like
Mm.
that's horrifying. I'd take that gum phobia any day.
Is that a huge concern out in Maine? You're just constantly in situations where you're gonna fall underneath ice and get trapped and
Oh, and this like neck of the woods, like if you like going out onto a lake or something, and you friggin' I don't know. I don't think it's like maybe I'm one of the people that are more concerned with it because it's just I've had horrible like reoccurring dreams of it, sharing my fears with you mixtapers. That's how much I love you. But that I think would just be awful. And I think it's the biggest thing is you're like 8 to 12 inches away from safety and you just can't fucking get there. Especially if you're like on a river and you're going down and you can't get out. Like that spooks the hell out of me.
now you're scaring the shit out of me.
All right. Well, let's
turn
I want to make you feel safe again. So I don't want to spook Sean out. But I'm always curious about some of the things could be music or stuff like that, but just what are like the big things that are like inspiring in your life, like that just motivate you to keep going forward and kicking ass?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Real talk, Punky Bruiser.
I think one could be positive reinforcement, knowing that people are actually into what you play and what you do and people taking interest in what you do. That's why it's important for anybody listening to, if you have a friend that's in a band or some kind of artist, if they're a painter, if they're anything, at least give them the time of day to even just like their post and write a comment. Oh, nice, cool thing. Small things like that can really help some people out, especially in a day and age where, a lot of people feel insecure because they're always comparing themselves to these greater, bigger, better things that they see on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And I guess just, I don't know, there is this weird kind of vibe in the air that the music industry is kind of evolving in some way. So that's kind of also just interesting to, kind of keep you going, keep you looking. Plus it's just fun, and having a support system like your bandmates and your friends to be there with you and kind of be on the ride with you is also another thing as well.
I think for me, what keeps me going definitely is like music's always been my outlet for most of my life. And especially when I discovered punk rock, it was definitely the outlet that felt most true to me. Like, because I feel like all of us feel like there's a wild part in us somewhere, and like especially with all the madness going on in the world, like it's like you got to let out the feelings that you have. And I feel like, at least from my experience, most people in the punk community, I can't talk, we're very sensitive beings, and we have intense emotions, and we got to get them out somehow, and I think just always wanting to improve on songwriting or whatever that is, and just like making my craft better and better.
Mm-hmm.
I just choked on a Tootsie Roll. Give me a second.
It's supposed to chew them things.
Yeah, I know.
So as you're slowly regaining consciousness back, I'm gonna jump over to what Jono and John said. So first over to John, you're definitely right, because I'm old school like that. Like if I see something that you're working on and putting it out there, I'm gonna I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna write some encouraging words, and like it's not just like I truly mean it when I'm putting those things out there. And I know that especially for any artist of any medium, just that one bit of encouragement could be the thing that you actually need to keep pushing forward. Not everybody's as extroverted as other people out there. So for some people to share what they're doing, it's a big emotional commitment to put it out there. And I absolutely see that, and I recognize that. And I don't know how to brave that storm, especially when you're just getting into it, because you're in this very fragile state. No matter whatever your art form is and whatever your front is, deep down inside, you're still just as insecure as the rest of us. And when you're putting something brand new into the world, you're going to have, some pretty intense feelings about it. For somebody to take 5 seconds out of their day to just positively acknowledge you, it goes a huge way. And you're right about just having that connection also with your bandmates and just normalizing the, the bro love, the companion love, showing, people of the same gender. It's okay to say, yo, I love you, man. I love you, girl. And it's like normalizing that. Like, I think we're a generation to work away from that misogynistic type of thinking, And like, I honestly, I can't, I've lost too many friends to let them go without giving them a hug and saying that I love them, because this life is way too short.
Mm-hmm.
So, and honestly, like, being able to work on your craft, your music, and finding solace in punk rock, Jono, like, you're right, because the thing that I love about punk is that it's inclusive to all people. It doesn't matter your gender, your race, your age, how much money you have in your fucking, it doesn't matter. And, people are there together. You're all the same, and you're getting, these amazing human beings that full-heartedly love the world, and they're innovators in their own design. That DIY mentality. They've all had to overcome something massive in their life, some big, overpowering, authoritative. Let it be through mental health or family issues or the world. It doesn't matter. They're all survivors in some way, shape, or form. We all are. And when people realize that common thread, that commonality between all of us, then the world gets a little bit more beautiful, in my opinion. So it's nice to hear that you've had this kind of recent, in the last 4 years, like, embracing of new sides of music that you didn't, fully were embraced into and stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think for me, definitely, like, I was always a music guy, but like, I identified with kind of the punk ideology, like punk approach to music, more so than any other approach that I'd learned in the past.
Well, there's a freedom behind it, and that ethos and that thinking, of just be yourself, and it's okay to be yourself and just be the best version of yourself. It doesn't matter if you're, like Steve Vai level guitarist, or if you're, say, Pat the Bunny, or say like Fat Mike, or it doesn't matter, the variety that you're doing, I mean, God, to some, you put on Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains, it's going to sound like a train crash, but to me, it's one of the most beautiful things in the world. I'm like, oh, this is the song of my soul right here.
Exactly.
That grit, those little imperfections, like we were saying, it's real, it's life. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfectly photoshopped. There's imperfections in everybody, but that's what gives you character. So, like, I can totally, you're right, because it's been so inspiring since my first show when I was 13. God, 23, 22 years ago. It's been a while, like, but when you see that, and you see that community, it's life, especially the right eyes and the right moment. It's life affirming. It's everything for me. It was what I was always looking for,
Exactly.
What inspires you to keep going, Sean?
Sorry?
Just ask what's your inspiration?
Swinging it back around.
My inspiration, you're still gonna ask me about that. Well, just everybody I know who's out there creating something and just, doing something just for the sake of doing it and not worrying about what they're going to get out of it. I feel like that is the reason you should get into any kind of art, is to just do it and not worry about what you're going to get out of it. That's doing it honestly. Doing it for any other reason is kind of bullshit, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and if you're just doing it as a means of self-expression, then honestly, anything that comes to you is just amazingly humbling, and you're like, I'll always forever be that guy that's like, oh shucks, I don't even know what to say, It's odd sometimes to take a compliment, but if you're in it for like truly the earnest reasons, then you're not going to be let down, if you're going in there, you're like, oh, I'm gonna start a gallery and I'm gonna sell my pieces for $10,000 a piece, and like, good for you. Good for you. You're an art for profit. Cool. And that's like, it's one thing. Art is always so subjective, you know? So it's really, what is it to you as the viewer? What is this experience worth to you? You know, it's like, you can go to a show, it's like $5 suggested donation. Like, all right, cool. Like, some people just walk right in. Other people will drop a 20 into there. It's really, what is that moment worth to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, and when you kind of allow patrons to use their better judgment and stuff like that, I think in most cases the results will surprise you. You know,
Yeah.
in most cases, I think people would have better human nature and want to respond to the things that are getting and, you know, seeing them, especially if it's like a show with a suggested donation where like, oh, I could walk in for free, or I could try to support the art that's around me right now and just try to, you know, be there for my community and the things that are happening.
And that's such an interesting thing about the music industry too, especially, you know, you could even be an intermediate, you could be an amazing musician, but for a very long part of the journey, you're pretty much playing for nothing. You know, your music is out there for free, you're playing shows for free, you know, and really the people who truly love it will stick it out and continue doing it for as long as they can and try to think of ways to, you know, still try to make a living out of doing it, but that's not the core reason why they're doing it. And you could kind of notice when, you know, people kind of care too much about the money when it comes to the arts. I mean, I get it. We want to make a living what we're doing, and we want to,
I don't want
you know,
to shame making money. Like, I don't want to shame making money for your art, right? Like, you should absolutely be able to get paid for your art.
Yeah.
Just starting out, I feel like it should come from just, you know, just doing it for its
It's
own
like
sake.
Drive, and wanting to do it and needing to express.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, and you get to a point where, you know, depending on, you know, what it is and what you're doing, you know, get to a certain point where you hopefully, if done right, it balances out, you know, then people, you know, will always, you know, respond well. There's some artists out there that will charge, you know, $600, $1,000 a ticket. And then there's other artists who have been around longer, but they're like, no, it's still, you know, $40, you know, which is honestly, I think that's fair for a big, you know, say like international band or something like that. I think $40 is fair, you know?
On the note, Punky, you mentioned earlier when you were 13 years old, talking about that very first show you saw. What was that first show you saw that made you feel so inspired?
White Zombie and Fear Factory.
Oh, that's a good one.
White Zombie Farewell Tour, 1998.
Wow.
What's everybody's first show?
Yeah,
good
I'm
question.
curious about that.
When I was 11, my dad took me to see Metallica.
Good dad. What year was that?
That was 2003 Saint Anger tour.
Oh, bad dad. I'm sorry. I take it back. Take it back. I'm just kidding. I probably ruined an amazing family memory.
No, it's all good. I personally still kind of like Saint Anger a little bit. I know the snare sucks. People hate on it.
That's the only time that I saw Metallica because a buddy won tickets on a radio show and I drove, so I didn't have to pay.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. That was a weird. Did you get that weird lineup too? That was like Limp Bizkit, the Deftones, Linkin Park, and Mudvayne. That's what it was here in the States for that tour.
Oh no, their opener was Godsmack when they came here.
Oh, I'm sorry. When I saw them, the Deftones opened, and then like Mudvayne and Linkin Park played after. I'm like, why aren't the Deftones co-headlining this?
Yeah.
Like, why are the Deftones the opener at a Metallica show and Limp Bizkit's the co-headliner? And that was like when the behind blue eyes spread theirs, let me walk the crowd with an American flag shit.
It's because people went for the nookie or whatever they say.
Oh man.
But shout out Deftones. Their new album's amazing.
Great stuff.
You are right. The new Deftones is phenomenal. That's the thing is I will forever, you know, be like Dickie shorts and a t-shirt and like skate shoes for the rest of my life. I've just adopted Chino's look since 1998 and I've never looked back. I'm okay with that.
I like it.
You're wrong.
Who's else had good first concerts?
First, so yeah, like I said, I think so local punk shows was later, but I went to like concerts and stuff as a kid. I think my first concert was AC/DC.
Oh, that's a good one too.
12, and they were doing their, I think the name of the album is it Black Ice? Or like, yeah, they were doing the Black Ice tour, and that was an amazing first concert.
The stage show on that was pretty insane. Was
Yeah.
that before the dude tried to murder his wife?
I'm not.
You like my random rock and roll facts that I keep in mind? Like, it's a weird, like, oh yeah, the dude from AC/DC, he totally put a hit out on his wife. That was recent though.
What?
Oh, who's that? I have not heard this story.
Yeah, I haven't heard this story.
Oh man, I wonder. I'll have to find the link afterwards. But, and if it's not the drummer from AC/DC, then maybe I'm thinking of another band. But I'm almost certain.
If it's not him, apologies to the drummer from AC/DC.
Yeah, but I guess I'm apologizing to the drummer of AC/DC. It's not like he's the lead singer of Bury Your Dead.
Did the lead singer Bury Your Dead try and kill
Oh wait, not
him?
Bury Your Dead. Sorry, no, fuck.
As I Lay Dying. Is
As
that
I
the
Lay
guy
Dying.
The guy from As I Lay
As
Dying.
I Lay Dying.
Oh yeah.
Deepest
I
apologies
heard
to
about
Bury
that
Your Dead. You guys are fine. You haven't tried to murder anybody. Sorry. As I Lay Dying. Wrong. Same genre.
Same genre.
But drastically different band. I'm sorry, Bury Your Dead. And if you want to come onto the show so I can apologize to you, you're more than welcome to. John, what was your first show?
Sum 41, 2003.
Nice.
A girl in my Math 8 class asked me out and bought me a ticket, and that was my first show. And I was a terrible date because my brother and a bunch of my friends from an older grade showed up, and I basically, I'm sorry, Jessica, ditched her to go in the pit with all of them. So, yeah, that was my first show.
Oh, man. Here it is, 2003. God, I was 18. American Pie credits rolling, and here's Sum 41.
Yeah, I was 14. Yeah.
Oh man, things were simpler then.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater after school.
Mm-hmm.
Little pipes made out of soda cans.
My was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I was playing that on the GameCube a lot. I remember.
Oh, Pro Skater 4. I spelled Underground, Thug, all that. Thug.
You guys played the remastered yet?
No.
Yeah, I haven't yet either. I have not had time. I've been on that like Marvel Avengers kick.
How's that?
It's good. I mean, it's no Spider-Man. Like honestly,
Spider-Man
that's
was
like
amazing.
the game of the PS4 for me. I don't think anything's gonna surpass it. Spider-Man was it's like my favorite game to come out in years. But Marvel, it's pretty good. It's like some tearing and visual issues here and there, but the story is good and the gameplay is a lot of fun. Playing as like Miss Marvel is awesome. Playing with Hulk is incredibly satisfying. You can literally pick up a motherfucker and beat another motherfucker with them.
Oh, dude, Ultimate Alliance. My roommate has that, and we play it. And as the Hulk, you pick up a motherfucker and can beat another motherfucker with them. That's exactly the terminology I use too to describe it. That's the
only way, because it's perfectly describes. It's literally poetry to the ears, And for us like deep comic nerds like that, that's an incredibly satisfying thing to do, especially as the Hulk, or if you play as in other games as other super brutes. I was thinking of the Juggernaut, but I can't think of any games you get to play as a Juggernaut. But that would. So
yeah, what's up with that? I mean,
we need more villain games.
I used to love playing Infamous 2 as the evil guy, and I would just do the tornado move like all throughout the city and just watch everybody get caught in the tornado as I'm like fighting off the other people. Infamous 2 is a super fun game. Oh,
I played Infamous 1 and the third one. Those are dope.
See, I played 1 and 2. I haven't played a third one.
I haven't played the third one yet either.
Third one was
that was good because it was like a grittier kind of superhero story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like The Boys, which holy shit
is awesome. I just watched the new episode last night. It's so good.
Is that episode 7?
Yeah.
Okay, I got 6 and 7 to watch, so I'm gonna. But
all right,
whew, dude, mixtapers, if you haven't watched The Boys on Amazon Prime, I'm not paid to say this. Go and check out The Boys. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Unless you're a little kid and you're watching this when you're not supposed to be. And then you should really most certainly go and watch The Boys. If you don't have Amazon Prime, I'm sure you can find some way to get your parents to pay for it without them knowing. Kids are smart these days. You'll figure it out. I believe in you. Trying to break the fourth walls of my, the audience members that I do know watch this show. And hopefully, they're doing something like watching me at work and getting paid for it, and just being like, fuck your supervisor, having me in the bottom of the screen, and, in your office job, whatever it might be, Hopefully you're watching this when you're not supposed to be. Those are my favorite viewers.
That's what's up.
So, we've been kind of all over the place, Mediaslaves. So I know that you just put out a new video. What else are you up to right now?
I guess we're just writing some new songs. Always trying to tighten up the set, make sure we're all ready to go when things are ready to go. What else have we been doing?
Studying government weed because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Guess we're just having fun. We're just doing the video's coming out soon. We actually have 2 more songs that we just recorded, so we're getting ready to get I almost forgot about those because we haven't looked at them in like a month, but we have, so hopefully we'll get another song out hopefully by the end of November is most ideal, or around then, maybe a little bit later, because this one might take a little bit of time to really get to where it needs to be. But yeah, there's definitely some stuff in the pipeline for sure.
No, that's awesome. Anything else you guys want to add that you might have missed?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Stay safe and healthy out there. Don't end up on Karen's Gone Wild on Instagram. You do not want to be seen on that, unless you do, in which case
I think
don't.
Some of them, honestly, I think people are being shitty just because they like that 5 minutes of attention on them too. Like, they're that desperate in their life for any sort of focus on them that they're willing to just self-depreciate to Karen's Gone Wild.
It's hard too, because there are also those people that are looking for that. They're looking for people to kind of antagonize and kind of, cut it at the right moment to make the other person look bad when you don't really know the full story. Oh, we're almost out of time again. But yeah, no, it's interesting how that whole the internet can be so beautiful but also so toxic at the same time. Like, there's such a wealth of information we have in our pockets to do amazing things and learn amazing things, and yet and I'm guilty of it too, just getting sucked into meaningless bull crap.
Isn't there like
negativity bias?
Isn't there like a new documentary on Netflix about it, like The Social Dilemma or something?
I've been hearing about this documentary. I still gotta check it out.
Yeah.
No, I've heard good things about it too, and then it is, we have this amazing tool in front of us, and like with any tool, with a hammer, you can use it to build, the most amazing structure, but you can also go and smash, buildings and windows and be as destructive as possible. It's simply, the tool is only as good as the individual using it, So hopefully, one thing that's for sure, we do have this resurgence of people getting more involved, more active in their community, tons of amazing charity work being done. I've seen so many beautiful different streams to help so many different social issues that are happening right now. And just like at-home concerts to raise money for this and for that, or even just this individual family that's in crisis right now. People actively stepping up and using the tools at their disposal to build each other up as compared to tear each other down. So it's definitely easy to focus on. And trust me, I was fucking people watching so hard at the fucking store earlier, watching this manager rip apart this mom for opening up Halloween costumes in the middle of it's like, we're kind of in a pandemic. It's probably why they're in a fucking plastic seal. But no, it's fine. Let your 6 fucking kids fucking try on Halloween costumes in the middle of the fucking store right now. That's fine. None of them had masks on either, so. But... And it's hard not to focus on those things, especially when it's happening right in front of you. But I think if we all, take a moment to appreciate each other's art, give it a share, give it a comment, show it some love, and show how we're building each other up, I think things could start to get better in a different way. Don't,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
don't give the trolls and the assholes their 10 seconds of fame is basically what I'm getting at. And it's hard, So we can enjoy those small popcorn moments, but at the end of the day, it's much easier to build something beautiful than it is to watch somebody trying to tear it down.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty
Media
succinct.
Slaves, this has been awesome. As I always wrap up in interviews, where can we find you online?
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music. You can find us on Instagram at MediaSlavesBand, on Twitter at MediaSlavesBand, Facebook.com/MediaSlavesBand. And YouTube. Make sure to go to our YouTube page and look at our new music video that is out now.
Fantastic. I love that I can bring the inner goofball out in some people because I just see it, Just having a blast of you guys. Oh, thank you so much for hanging out. My guests tonight have been Sean, John, and Jono of the band Mediaslaves out of Surrey, British Columbia, aka parts of Vancouver, where I just learned about that too. So thank you so much for hanging out tonight.
Thank you, man. This has been a fun interview.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's been awesome.